welcome to Wanderlust Hearts. Hey guys, welcome to Wanderlust Hearts. This is Wanderlust Wren. Welcome to episode 1. I'm very excited to share with you guys the launch of my first book, which is called The Ultimate Travel Guide to the Amalfi Coast of Italy. So this is southern Italy, this is Sorrento, this is Capri, this is Anacapri, all of those surrounding areas, and it's one of my absolute favorite places in this whole world. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been to. It is the place I would move to in a heartbeat if I had the chance. It's absolutely stunning, and if you haven't been there, you need to at least look at some pictures and force yourself to go because it's absolutely amazing. So half the reason why I chose to do the first book about the Amalfi Coast, like I said, it's one of my favorite places to visit. I've been there once, obviously, but it is absolutely my favorite place. And as a flight attendant, that speaks volumes when I say it's my favorite. I found it absolutely beautiful. I loved the landscapes and the seascapes and just the sea and all of the different tours that we did. I went with my mom. She's like kind of my travel buddy. Hey, Mom. So, you know, it's a lot of fun to take her overseas. We got in the habit of going to Europe once a year, and then I had a baby. So here we are. We kind of put a lot of that on pause until the baby gets a little older, and then we're trying to make it like a girls' trip type thing. But you know, my mom really enjoyed it. It is a lot of walking. There's a lot of like hilly surfaces where you're kind of going uphill. So it did kind of bother our feet after a while. And so I would definitely recommend if you ever go, make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes, especially if you're going to be out walking around and, you know, checking out some of these cool sceneries. So the book is really awesome. It highlights all of the different areas that are down in the Amalfi Coast. So you've got Amalfi Town, you've got Positano, you have Ravello, Priano, and then Capri, Anacapri, Maiori, Sorrento. They're all absolutely amazing places. And no matter where you stay, you'll be able to access all of these different places very, very easily because there's either boats that will take you there or there are ground transportation that will take you there. Easiest way to get there is to fly into Naples Airport, and then there's a train that you can take from there down to the Sorrento area. Sorrento is just kind of one of the bigger cities that's down there on the Amalfi Coast, one of the more known areas, and absolutely beautiful place. So this book is filled with different guides on places to stay, things to do, things to try to eat, different festivals that they have, different transportation tips. I mean, there's literally everything in this book, and I absolutely love that, you know, I took the time to kind of format everything and make sure it was easy to follow, and that you can find all the information that you need when you want to try to plan a trip to go to Italy. Now, for those of you who know me personally, I am a huge wine lover. I love wine. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Italy is because they're supposed to have the best wine in the world. And I guess that's subject to, you know, your taste buds. I'm a little more of a sweet wine drinker. I don't really like all the Chiantis and stuff. They're a little too rich for me as far as red wine goes. But I did try everything, and all of it was very delicious in comparison to what we have here in the States. So this book is great because it gives you different vineyards that you can check out, different wineries that you can check out. It lists out all different types of wine that are famous for each region or each area of the Amalfi Coast. This book is very centered on the Amalfi Coast, though. It's not Italy in general. So you're going to find, you know, a lot more of the local stuff that you're going to find in this area. They also have a lot of lemon orchards. I think lemon orchards would be the term for it. And so lemons are very, very popular. And so everything has lemons on it. You'll see anything that you want to buy souvenir wise will have some form of lemon on it. And it's actually really neat because it's, you know, kind of unique to Italy. And so the Capri area, which is an island, you have to take a boat out there. It's really awesome. Capri is known for their lemon harvest. So they have everything lemon. And the best thing that you can do is try limoncello. Limoncello is basically a lemon liqueur, similar to if you were to do like a lemon drop shot, except that it's more, you know, you kind of just sip it. It's usually served at dinners. And my mom and I did this amazing food class when we went to Italy. And part of the reason that we went was because she was serving wines that were local to their area as well as fresh limoncello. So this is stuff that, you know, they serve with their dinners when they sit down, when they're entertaining. It's just kind of a nice sipping drink. It's not something that you're doing shots of, and definitely better cold. Now, speaking of the food class that my mom and I did, it was a cooking class that was done in the home of a true Italian woman. And it was awesome. It was probably one of the best cooking classes that we could have taken. I do recommend a lot of different types of places that you can go as far as like Airbnb. They have experiences. I believe that's where I found the one that we went to. And it was great because you can tell this woman does this all the time. We made homemade pasta. We made homemade gnocchi. We did sauces for each of those. And then we all sat down and had our meal together with our wine and our limoncello. And it was just a really great experience doing everything in her home and having everybody kind of do everything at once. Her entire dining room table, which is where we were forming all the pasta and the gnocchi, all of that was like a big butcher block. And so it was just really cool because we were all doing everything at the same time together. And then we got to taste our creations. And of course, mom and I came home and we were like, yeah, we're going to be, pasta makers and gnocchi makers. And we're going to be great at this. And we could teach people how to do this the real Italian way. And no, we're not Italian. But so we each bought like the pasta maker, the thing that actually cuts up the pasta, and then we bought gnocchi squeezers and all this other stuff, and even like the right type of flour that you're supposed to use for pasta. And we bought all this stuff, and then we never did it. I don't think I've used my pasta maker one time, and I would be very surprised if my mom did, but maybe she can chime in on that later. I have made the gnocchi. Gnocchi is very, very difficult to make. If you've ever tried to make it from scratch, it's very hard and complicated because you have to literally put it in the boiling water. As soon as it rises to the top, you take it out. It doesn't matter if there's still some in there. You take it out right when it rises. Otherwise, it becomes mashed potatoes. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent of memory lane here from one of my favorite trips I've ever taken. But going back to Capri, so you can take a boat tour out to Capri, which is amazing. There's only, I think, like a couple of cars that are on the island because some of them ferry their cars over there, but most of it's walking. And so this is where a lot of that hilly area is going to come in. Anna Capri is actually there as well. And it's basically an island built on top of Capri. I think that's the best way to explain it, even though that may not be technically correct, but it's the best way to explain it. So the only way to get to Anna Capri is to take a chairlift. So think of skiing. That type of chairlift goes up the mountain. And then when you get to the top, you're at Anna Capri, and there's this really nice, bistro type thing up there. You can view all of Italy from there. It's absolutely stunning. A beautiful view of the Tyrrhenian Sea. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And so, you take the chairlift up, you spend a little bit of time, and then you take the chairlift back down. Anna Capri is very small, but definitely worth seeing, even if it's just for the ride on the chairlift and a quick couple photos at the top. Absolutely beautiful. And like I said, Capri is one of my favorites. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of beaches. There's a lot of shopping, a lot of great restaurants. And I will say it is a little more touristy, but it's definitely something that you're going to want to check out, even if it's just for like the boat rides. A lot of the boat rides will also stop in Positano. I know ours did. And then we got to do a little bit of shopping in Positano. And then they also have other beach excursions and things like that. And of course you can book other excursions, but it's a lot of fun, and it's really awesome to see different parts of that little island. Now, when mom and I went there, we stayed in Sorrento. And so we stayed at an Airbnb there, and it was right on the coast. So the beach was right in front of our window. Every night we could listen to the waves crashing and just, take some wine and go sit down there. It was this little tiny little area down there. And it was beautiful because it wasn't very touristy at that area. The boats and stuff did go out of there, so you'd see a lot more traffic in the morning and the evening when they were picking and dropping off passengers. But it was a really great experience because I felt like we were kind of more in with the locals. And, I had an altercation with one because she wanted me to move off of her beach area that she had moved her chairs off of. It's a really weird situation. And so she's yelling at me in Italian, and I'm just trying to sit down on the beach and watch the waves and have a glass of wine on my first night in Sorrento, and she's shooing me off. And so as an American, being pitiful, or not pitiful, that's not the right word, I'm very passive aggressive. My husband would agree with that. I basically just told all the Americans, don't eat at her restaurant. It's terrible. And so she didn't have a lot of business for the time that we were there, and she should have just let me sit on her beach. So that was kind of a fun experience and kind of a story that I'll always remember looking back at Italy. So I told you my favorite part, which was all of the boating and with Capri and Anna Capri and the views. So I want to tell you a little bit about my mom's experience because it's the one thing that, going back, this is what she talks about. And so it's kind of funny. So, everybody loves an accent, especially us Americans. We love British accents. We love anything that sounds exotic, right? So my mom was very into the Italian accent and just, the way that Italian men presented themselves, I guess. So there were two of our hosts that were basically like our tour guides for the boat day that we went to Capri and Positano, and we got to go swimming and do all this, amazing stuff on this boat. And the one guy's name was Gianni, who my mom was just all in love with. And so, I have more pictures of her and Gianni just, and he was probably getting fed up. He was like, whatever. But, it was just such a fun day, and just watching my mom just have fun and be free, and just that makes my heart so happy. I love being able to share these experiences with my mom, and I really hope that she's listening to this podcast because I really hope that this will bring some joy to her too, that I'm incorporating her into the story, or maybe she'll be offended. I don't know. I'm sorry, Mom. But these are just some of the stories that stick out when I think back to this trip. And of course, we went on this trip pre-COVID. So this was back before, things were shut down and everything was more chill and very lax. And it was just a really great experience. I have some of the best pictures from our time there, and, just being the adventurous person that I am and kind of cracking my mom out of her shell a little bit to enjoy culture and like fully immerse yourself into, in this case, Italian culture. It was just a really great experience. And I think that most Americans need to have those experiences where they're submerged into another culture and they're put under a different set of rules and they can experience things in a different light, because as Americans, we're very egotistical. We think that it's, we have the best country and we have the best laws and we the land of the free and we're the best and we're just the best country ever. And as somebody who travels very often, like I said, I'm a flight attendant. I love to travel for fun. I can say that I disagree with that. I really do. I think that we are just egotistical. We believe that we're the best because that's what everybody makes us up to seem. But when you actually go and travel to these other, countries and cultures, they get into things with you. Like they'll be like, oh, you're American, and then they'll ask about our politics, or they'll say that we're a joke or whatever. Like they don't take Americans seriously outside of the US. People think that they do, and people think that they worship us. And, yeah, maybe we have, lax laws compared to, third world countries. But in this case with Europe, it's one of those things where, it's almost like you're afraid to say that you're American because their cultures are so much deeply rooted, I believe, more than our own. And of course, this is my opinion. This is something that I've observed on multiple trips that I've taken overseas where, I'm at the point where I tell people I'm Canadian when I go overseas because, most people are not thrilled to hear about Americans. And I'm sorry, this is going off on another rant, but that's the point of this podcast, is to really get into things that I've experienced and share those with you guys. Because if you're the type of person who's never stepped foot outside of the United States, you have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. You have absolutely no clue about other cultures and the way that they view Americans and our politics and just, the things that Americans do and say, and just we act egotistical when we travel. So I try to make sure that when my mom and I travel, we kind of have a debrief before we go. Like, hey, we're going to try to blend in. We're going to try to be them. Let's order the local food. Let's order the local drinks. Let's do the local dancing. Let's just have fun and submerge ourselves in the culture. And that way we're more accepted. And believe it or not, like every time that I've traveled where I kind of blend myself in, people are more welcoming to me. And then they're like, maybe Americans aren't so bad. And so that's a really, really great feeling to have too, is that we're changing the way they view Americans just by simply trying to fit in and trying to speak their language and trying to, kind of understand them. And it's a really unique experience. Okay, so getting back to the book here, because I'm sorry, I'm off on these rants, but I hope that's something that you guys will enjoy, is that I'm bringing it down. I'm making it more personable. I'm not going to read you guys the whole book. If you want the book, you can purchase the book. You can purchase the audiobook once it's available. That is something that I'm planning to work on next, but I wanted to get this out and kind of get the podcast going a little bit here so that way you guys have a chance to listen. Give me your feedback. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? And let's make it the best podcast it can possibly be in terms of, travel and family and just different topics that are going to come up. So Italy is just a cornerstone for me. It's a very, very important part of my life. And although this book was written about the Amalfi Coast, we did tour all of Italy. And so now I want to transition to that and just kind of tell you guys a little bit more about Italy itself and what drove me to write just about the Amalfi Coast, because that's kind of, obviously what the book is focused on. So the main thing that we did was we flew from Chicago into Zurich, actually. And then we flew from Zurich to, Venice. And we started our tour in Venice. And so Venice was an absolutely beautiful city. We always go to Europe in September, October. It's always the fall. In my opinion, that's the best time to go. Yeah, it's a little bit rainy sometimes depending on what part you're in, but it's great because a lot of the locals are back in school. Back home, we're back in school, so there's a little bit less tourists going. And it's just a really easier time of year to travel and get around. And, we non-rev being a flight attendant, so, we need to have open available seats. So less people are traveling, which means there's more seats available for us to go. So that's the time of year we like to go. We typically go, plus my birthday's in September, my mom's in October. Really great timing for that as well. So starting off in Venice was beautiful. Obviously we did the gondola rides, and it's kind of funny because when you think about gondola rides, you think of romance and this guy that's serenading you and a proper proposal and just, romance, romance, romance. And, then there's me and my mom in this gondola. And I think back to it, and we were both so tired because we had been traveling for so long, and we were just tired, but I'm like, we got to go. And so seeing the Rialta Bridge was absolutely beautiful. The different boats that were going in and out of that marina it was just different than what it is in America. So obviously a sight to see. I have a ton of pictures of the Rialta Bridge, and then getting in the gondola with the guy that was steering with us, and he wasn't singing. I don't remember if he asked us if we wanted him to sing or not, but he didn't. And so going down the canals in Venice, it's almost terrifying. It's like driving on a highway with like no turn signals, and there's one-way canals, and then there's other boats that are going the wrong way, and it was just like a crazy mess. So it was hard to almost enjoy it because you're kind of fearing for your life at the same time. You're like, oh my God, he's going to crash this gondola and we're all going to fall out. But it was really fun. It was a great experience. And I have some really great pictures of me and my mom doing that too. So it was a memorable time for us. So our mode of transportation was taking the trains all over the place. So my mom will tell you up and down, I am so good with Google Maps. I am so good with like transportation and kind of sense of direction. I'm really good with all that stuff. So when we travel, she leaves all of that to me. She just kind of follows me wherever I'm going. It's like, it's funny. So, we got to the train station. She had no idea what train we were getting. I'm like, it's this one. We got to go to this track. We got to do this. We bought the tickets, like done. I speak, a lot of Spanish, so I can read Italian. I can read French. Obviously it's very different, but I can read it and kind of navigate using that. So, that goes a long way too, the Romance languages. But we went ahead and took the train from Venice to Florence and did a lot of sightseeing there too. We went to Pisa briefly just to, see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. We had pizza there. It was a very quick day trip. We bypassed Rome the first time because we wanted to fly out of Rome. So we went through Rome and connected down through Naples and then got to Sorrento and did the Amalfi Coast. So we also did go back and see Vesuvius and did the Lost City, which was a lot of fun. If you've never been to the volcano and kind of the ruins and things that are left there, it's very gloomy, but it's a really beautiful thing to see if you've never been there. So it was unique. Now, going into Rome, obviously Rome has so many things that we wanted to see, and we had, I think, maybe 4 scheduled days that we were going to be in Rome before our flight was going back to the States. And about halfway through it, we found out that my uncle had passed away, and we needed to get back because they were going to have a funeral for him, and, we needed to get back to be there for our family. So we basically had to see Rome in like a day and a half, 2 days. And so basically what we had to do was we had to go online. We had to purchase front of the line tickets for every single thing that we wanted to see. So everything from the Colosseum to the Vatican to I don't even know, just everything that we wanted to see, all the museums, just everything. So we were so tired by the time we were done, but I will highlight some of the big things for us. One of the biggest things was the Colosseum. Absolutely stunning. We did this tour. This guy was very informative. And so I'm really glad that we did it because walking through the Colosseum, he gave so much history to what each thing was, made for, such as, they had these big cages where you would walk in and you'd see cages to the right and to the left and before you could go up into the seating areas. And so one of those was actually for the poorer people to use the bathroom. And the other one was for the lions, and they would keep the lions in there. So you wouldn't know that unless someone told you that. So that was a really unique experience. The only thing that I regret about it, and if I ever, and I do hope that one day I'll get to go back to Italy, but I would love to do the catacomb tour at night where they go underneath the Colosseum and show you, just all of the stuff that went on behind the scenes down there. And that would have been a really great experience. And so that was something we didn't have time to do, but we did the day tour. Again, great pictures. And it's being carefully restored, but the city, and I agree with this, the city will only restore it if they can use the same exact materials to do the restoration. And so there's only parts of it that they can actually restore, or just to maintain it. And so the Colosseum, eventually there's going to be parts of it you're not going to be able to see. So sooner than later, you want to get out there if that's something that you want to see. And it's absolutely stunning, worth every moment. Just absolutely great. Now, getting into the Vatican, my father's side of the family was raised very Catholic. And so going to Vatican City was something that was just kind of important for that part of my background. But one of the main things that I wanted to see was the Sistine Chapel. Now, I might sound like that naive American that I was complaining about earlier, but growing up, I had always seen pictures of the Sistine Chapel as this like blue, top with like it's kind of like a dome top with blue clouds and angels and, just it's very cheery. And when we walked into the Sistine Chapel, I looked at my mom and I'm like, what is this? Because it is not that at all. It is like this big, long, rectangular room with these like really dark colors. And you're not supposed to take pictures or videos in there because they're trying to preserve the paint. And, when we walked out, I was just kind of like, that is not what I thought it was. And so again, that might be the naive American in me, but that was not what I was expecting. And so one of the other tips that I have, and this goes for any type of travel, do not have expectations when you go, because the expectations will kind of kill it for you. It's going to make it pointless. It's going to make you kind of frustrated because it wasn't what you expected. I know that's how I felt in that moment. And, it's hard to not do that sometimes when you witness things in a different way. In this case, I had a picture in my head of what I thought it was going to be, and that's not what it was. So, that being said, other than that moment, because I literally had no idea what I was looking at. And so that took away from the cultural experience, and we just kind of rushed through the room, and it was very crowded. And Vatican City itself is a very small place. And it's kind of funny because they actually have, if you were to look on Google Maps, it is its own country. And so it'll say now leaving Vatican City and now entering Italy, or the Italy-Vatican border. And it's a really interesting way that they go about that. So the Pope was not available that day. He wasn't making any appearances or anything. I'm not sure, if that's something that they just do on certain days, but he was not there. So there was nothing, that we could get blessed. But of course, there were gift shops that claimed to have, different types of holy water and things that had been blessed by the Pope. So we did purchase some holy water and brought it back for my sister so that she could give it to her then mother-in-law, who is very Catholic, and her children, her son and daughter are obviously the grandchildren. So they, we kind of expected them to be around that culture a little bit more than we were as children. And my nephew actually drank the holy water instead of like preserving it. So I don't really know what that means, but I feel like that's kind of a bad omen. But we kind of laugh about it to this day because he was a kid, and when we asked him why he did it, he said, I was thirsty. And so that was just kind of a funny moment, aha moment, between my family and I. And, my sister being absolutely mortified. I don't know if he did this in front of the grandma or not, but that kind of even makes the story better. So that was our time in Italy. We had a blast, a lot of cultural stuff, a lot of really great food. Another thing that you're going to hear me talk about is food. I love food. I love trying all the different foods and different cultures and different countries and things like that. And a lot of the times, if I can't read the menu, I'll just point at something and say, give me that. And I ask them to tell me what it is after I have finished my plate, because if it's something I wouldn't have otherwise ate, at least now I know I've tried it and hey, it's actually pretty good. So Italy's food is very clean. Even having pasta and sauces and things like that, like they use great ingredients. They use fresh ingredients. They use things straight from the garden. They're just, everything is so fresh that it's not processed like everything is here in America. So everything just has a clean taste to it. You don't feel absolutely bloated when you're done eating, especially with pasta. Here in the States, I love pasta. I eat it all the time. And so one of the things that, really kind of stood out to me was that I didn't have that bloated feeling after eating the pasta and things that I ate while I was there. Even the pizza, just everything. It was just very fresh, really great ingredients. And it was just an overall great experience, going to some of the different restaurants and the pastry places. They have some amazing pastries that I don't even know how to pronounce. And so going to those little cafes and things like that, they get their day started a little bit later because like typical European, dinner is much later in the day. And so, coming from America where we, are up and at work by 8 o'clock, like they're not even out of bed by then. So their day is not even starting till like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And then, they're getting home at like 6 or 7 and dinner's at like 10 p.m. So a lot of the restaurants that serve dinner don't even open until 9 o'clock. And so we had to go out of our way sometimes to find somewhere to eat because we're used to eating at like 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And that is way too early according to the European clock. So that's something also to keep in mind. If you really want to try some of the best restaurants, you have to push your dinner off a little bit later and you have to stay out late. You have to, learn to sleep in a little bit longer and stay up a little bit later. And lastly, I'm going to give you one last travel hack that you'll probably, again, hear me say multiple times. When you are traveling, you need to get on the local time zone as soon as possible. If you get off the plane, which generally going to Europe in this case, you're going to land at super early in the morning because the flights typically leave the U.S. in the evening. So you're going to leave the U.S. somewhere between 8 and 10 p.m. You're going to land in the morning, and local time, it's like somewhere between 6 and 9 a.m. You need to hit the ground running. Do not go to sleep. Do not take a nap. You're going to hate yourself afterwards if you try to do that, so don't do it. We made that mistake when we went to Paris. That's a whole nother segment. However, we wasted an entire day because we were tired and we napped. And so don't do that. If you land in the morning, just get going. Even if it's, something small, like just checking out the local villages or, checking out the local breakfast places or something small where you can stay awake and then get on that sleep schedule of the local time zone. That's very, very important. Because otherwise it just throws off your equilibrium's all turned off and it's messed around. So don't do that. Always get onto the local time zones. That's one of the best travel hacks I can tell you. And, it's easier for me because I'm a flight attendant. But back when I first started flying, when we took the Paris trip, that was our first international trip. And we were a hot mess. And so I try to always tell people, especially when they're going international for the first time for vacation, like don't waste that first day. It's so critical. So guys, it has been fun. I've had a blast with you. Down below, I'm going to post the link for this book. Once it goes live on audio, I will absolutely post the audiobook link as well. I hope that you guys all check it out. I think it's a really great resource. If you decide that you aren't going to plan a trip to Italy, at least read it, get to know a little bit of the culture. And again, this book is focused just on the Amalfi Coast, but Italy in general, overall, beautiful country. I highly recommend it. And one of the best places I've ever been to. I also just want to say that if my mom is listening to this, I hope that you're not upset with me for sharing some of those things with our podcasters. However, I think that it was amazing to share every single experience that I have with you. And I hope that you don't mind, but I will be sharing more of these stories from our trips. And I'll throw myself under the bus too, but I just want you to know, and I love you, and I hope that you're listening to this, and I hope that, some of this makes you laugh as we go back through memory lane with our trips. Thank you for joining us on Wanderlust Hearts.